Welcome everybody back to Boost in Motion, guys, and today I want to talk about with y'all. So I made a video talking about how to find the best Q50 for you. I talked about some of the common issues you may run into and how to protect yourself by either getting an extended warranty or by choosing to get a newer year model that's still under the factory warranty. And I pretty much gave you ways to mitigate yourself from some of these risks. But at the end of the day, you acquired your Q50. Now you got it. So if you guys don't know how to do it, go check that video out. Hopefully I'll put a link below above or I'll put it in this little series. But now you got your Q50. You got the protection. Now let's get to modifying the car. Stop right there. So guys, let's jump into it. I want to go through it, this one thorough. So sorry, it's going to be all off the head. I'm good at that. Anyways, shout out to my whole Boost in Motion family. Much love. I appreciate you guys for showing support over the years. But we're going to get into the second video of this saga or episode or whatever I want to call it. Once you got your Q50, what is the next thing you got to do? Because now we want to start modifying. I want to tell you guys, stop right there. I don't want you to modify your car at all. I've been in this car community for, 18 to 20 years now, right? And the biggest issue that we always have is you're supposed to maintenance before modifying the car. And I don't hear that at all said online based on YouTubers anymore. It's like the new guys don't do any of this. Guys, you just purchased a Q50 that's either 2016, 2022, 2018. It has been driven by your uncle, your aunt, or whoever, someone. It is not used to the modifying world. So there are going to be some things you need to do to mitigate and get yourself in the right protection. So I need you to maintenance the car first. I'm sorry. I know your bread may not be good or your bread might be good, but we need to make sure the car is running tip-top shape before we start getting into modifying. So the number one thing I need you guys to do when you first get this car is you're going to have to do an oil change. Change all the fluids that you can change that are within its service. If you get a Q50 with a service life, you know that some of the stuff was changed recently, it's fine. But most of you guys are buying Q50s with 50, 60, 70,000 miles, or maybe even more depending on your pocket, right? And you don't know the status of where the car sits. So if you have oil, change your oil. You're supposed to have oil. Change your oil. In this world, honestly, people always ask what's the best brand of oil to get. I get it. Honestly, I'm still a very simple guy. Mobil 1, but you can also go with Royal Purple. You got Amsol, and there's these manufacturers who make their oil. You guys ask the grade. Oh my God, Boost, should I get 5W30 or 020 or whatever it is? Honestly, guys, I keep it with 030. I like 030. That's just what it is. I rock that all year round. I live in a climate where it goes from hot to cold, and 0 is the lowest possible number, no matter if it's hot and cold. I don't want to think about 5 and 0. The 30 weight, perfectly fine. Leave it with 30 weight. Some people do 020. It's up to you. But I like the 30, 030, call it a day. You can do 530, but if it's below freezing, you really want a 0. Okay? Cool. You got this plenty of information on different oils to get. Go and look for that out there. You have the transmission fluid. For whatever reason, Infiniti says you don't need to change the transmission fluid. I'm telling you guys right now, change the transmission fluid. You're going to need to do a drain and fill. You're going to drain it all out, and you're going to pump the fluid back in. Go buy the OEM transmission fluid for the vehicle. Don't buy any aftermarket one. I still recommend the OEM because it seems that maybe there are enough brands who make an ATF that's good enough to use it, but I would stay away from them. Just go buy the OEM. It's a little expensive, but buy that, purchase that. Drop the fluid out, even the one in the transcooler in the bottom of the radiator, and then pump all that stuff back in. Turn the car on, go through some gears, drive it, come back, add some more if you need to. Talk to your mechanic. I'm not your mechanic, all right? Once you get that done out the way, you have your transfer case. This is for the guys who are all-wheel drive. In your transfer case, for whatever reason, it seems like the service life is really long on this one. Transmission fluid, differential fluid, all these fluids will get dark, but the transfer case doesn't go through as much abuse. So you may not need to change your transfer case of fluid because honestly, it just doesn't break down as much. It probably is breaking down, but the color doesn't really change that much. But you could choose to change that too. Now I know you guys already asked, so what's the service history? Right? I'm gonna be honest with you. When it comes to oil, every 2,000-3,000 miles, stick with that industry standard. Screw with Infiniti saying every 10,000 miles. I don't care how synthetic it is. The transmission stuff, honestly, it's the first time you get in the car. Just change it. If you don't know when it was last changed, just change it. Because at least you know you're starting from 0. Sorry. Differentials. If you have a rear-wheel drive, honestly, the rear differential is going to get cloudy. It's going to be beat up a lot more. It's going to change this color a lot faster. I change my differential fluid every 8 to 10,000 miles. The rear one. The front one didn't necessarily have to be changed that often because I had an all-wheel drive. So if you had a rear-wheel drive, you can change that one out. I believe you can go with a 7W90 rather than an 80W90. You can actually go down in viscosity for the is it the viscosity for the rear differential. It's been a minute since I've been in Q50, guys, so my knowledge isn't as perfect as it used to be back then. But yeah, change it out all at one time. Some of you guys actually still have power steering. I don't know how. It's a very small amount of you guys, but if you have power steering on your VR30 Q50, change out that fluid too. And the last fluid that I know that's left is your brake fluid, right? And your coolant. Most people would sometimes like to change out their coolant. I usually just leave that alone, right? Unless I need to refill it. But when it comes to the brake fluid, honestly, that's really up to you. It is a bit tedious because you have to do the procedure where you have to bleed the farthest brakes from the reservoir. So you have to do passenger rear, driver rear, passenger front, driver front, right? And that's how you bleed out in the sequence. And you have to pump the fluid in. There's different mechanisms you can buy off Amazon, eBay to pump all that fluid out and put new, fresh fluid in. I would recommend going with the best. I forgot the DOT off the top of my head. There's certain DOT or dot numbers for the brake fluid. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, or 5.1 or 4.1. I can't remember. I'm sorry. It's off the top of my head. But it's better to go with a brake fluid with higher temperature or a higher boiling point that is still OEM and won't affect your car. So that information is out there. You can look it up. Take the time to look it up. You can find it. That can be used with most average day cars, but you just want a higher braking boiling point to it. All right, you can do so. As you do that, then guess what? We took care of all the fluids on your Q50. We are in a good stance. We are in a good place now. Everything should be running well. Any leaks or anything that might have been an issue, now that you spotted it, now you see it, now you can mitigate and take better action because you want to know where the car sits before you start modifying it and you find out that it's having this issue. Now the fluids are good. Everything is lubricated properly. Now we want to go to braking. Yes. So understanding we adding more performance to your vehicle, right? Some of you guys are buying these cars used. You don't know where the brake pads sit. You know how good the brake pads are. As of right now, at 300 or 400 horsepower, you're coming to a stop. But now you add more power, guess what? You're going a lot more faster. So you're going to need proper brake pads to slow your car down. There's plenty of different brake pads out there. I always would recommend getting like a semi-metallic composition and or ceramic composition for your brake pads, front and rear, no matter what. Understand that if the pads are fine, it's okay, right? If your pads are nice and chunky, that's okay. But understand you're taking risks that you may have organic or very low friction pads on. So now that when you start going, if you add pure turbos, you're making 600-700 wheel horsepower, and then you do that first pull, and you're coming from 140 and trying to slow down, you're like, I changed out the brake fluid, but this pad is glazing over real quick because the temperature for the point, or because the low friction pads are not slowing you down. Or you don't have a BBK. We'll get to BBK. Or pretty much you have low friction pads. So they heat up very quickly and you lose all brake confidence. I know how that feels. I did that on my cars over the years. I always went to a better braking pad. So I always went with like a Hawk pad, a EBC. Some people use Stop Tech. There's plenty of different brands out there. Look up people's recommendations and go with that. I don't care if you have a BBK or not. Right? The BBKs usually do a lot better because they give a bit more clamping force, but you're still limited on your brake pad. You get better clamping force, but you're limited on the brake pads, on repeated brake stops. So I recommend changing those brake pads if you are very low on brake pads, and spend the money right the first time if you know that you're going to want to go add in power, just no power. Same thing for the rotors. If you have OM rotors and you're getting back a pulse sensation press on the brake, understand your rotors may be warped. So you might need to change those out and put a better rotor on there, right? So choose to do that. That's up to you. What if you want to go with drill or slotted? I would still really recommend staying away from slotted because with slotted, it eats up the pad. And I don't think it really adds additional performance after all the videos I've watched and engineers talking about it. It seems like slotted doesn't really matter. Drilled seem like is a lot more better for brake performance because a lot of OEM cars come with drilled already, and the science is behind it that drill is actually better, but you could be prone to cracking. But once again, we have Q50s. We don't have race cars, so you don't have to choose to do that. So I would recommend just going with a blank rotor That is it, with some kind of zinc composition to prevent from rusting or whatever. That's it. Now that we took care of the brakes, let's talk about tires and alignment. You just got a car, you don't know if it's aligned properly, it's not. You don't know if it's you'll know that the car's pulling. You want to look at the inner edges of the tires and see if they're worn out. Change out the tires if the tires are showing any wear, and then get alignment after. That's it. Period. Get that part. Take care of that part. That's going to cost additional money, but if you're getting worn inner edges, that means your camber is off, right? You have a negative camber from factory. You want to take a look at all that stuff. And while you're there, look at your shocks. If you have 100, 120, 130,000 miles on your Q50, these shocks will probably never replace. So the car probably bounces a lot and it's beating up on the tires. So if you see really irregular tire wear on your car and you never had it before, it's 90, 100,000 miles, that also could be because of the shocks. Now, we started getting into the modifying now, right? We are pushing into the modifying realm. So I'm going to actually, what I'm going to add right here, what I'm going to sit here and say is this. We serviced the car. That's what we did here. We serviced the car. We took care of all of the fluids, all the most important, the tires, the brake performance, and everything. But now once it comes to certain parts, like you might have to change out the stock struts, now we're going to go into modifying and the choice of modifying the car. So what I'm going to do next in the third video now is we're going to talk about modifications to the car. All right? So, guys, tap in. Shout out to my whole Boost in Motion family. I really appreciate you guys for your support. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button with the bell notification. We're now going to go into modifying our Infiniti Q50. So, definitely check me in the next video. Guys, I appreciate it. You guys have a good day. Thank you.